And we are back live here in the studio. Your boys, Logan Dolby and Matt McClure, got a pretty great lineup for you. I think this show's going to go pretty awesome. I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way. The viewers on Facebook Live, the listeners on Com Radio, and of course, Matt McClure. Happy late birthday, buddy.
Yeah, it feels good to be back in the studio, normal time slot. Obviously, last week we were on the late night cap on Wednesday, but back on the regular time here, 5 to 6. We got a great show lined up for you guys. Can't wait to jump in, and that's what we're going to do right here.
All right, let's go right into it. Kevin Durant in the news recently confirmed what basically all NBA fans were thinking before heading into the season, that he will not play this year for the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to be out with that Achilles injury that he suffered in the final series against the Toronto Raptors. He's done for the year.
Yeah, but we all saw that coming as well for Kevin Durant. That injury in the finals in game, I think it was either 4 or 5. It was brutal, and he tried to – remember, he also injured it against the Rockets, and it was a non-contact injury. You thought he was going to be done for the rest of the playoffs, and then he came back in the finals probably a little bit sooner, hurt it in the finals, and that was pretty much it for him, and he tore his Achilles, and that's a long, long process. I wasn't really surprised that Kevin Durant is missing next year, because there's only a certain level of guy that can come back from that injury very quickly. I mean, Terrell Suggs did it in 7 months for the Ravens. That's about it. That's
a freak, though.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's just got that kind of mentality that I'm going to come back as quickly as I can. I'm not saying Kevin Durant doesn't, but how about we, be a little bit slower with the process here and come back when you feel right. And listen, this is a Brooklyn Nets team that's going to be competitive next year with Kyrie Irving there and still a lot of the same guys. So let's just hold back for a year. And when you do come back the following season, that team's going to be a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the power rankings don't change because of this news. I mean, we had already figured he was going to be out, so there's no change there for our Eastern Conference power rankings. Shams Charania just released a little bit of news here about the Miami Heat. They are still interested in trading for Chris Paul. This guy sucks, though. Like, why are they so interested in trading for him? Honestly, I'd rather have Goran Dragic at this point, like, based on the cap number, the money that they're going to have to move around, and the production that they give you on the court. Come on, man. You really is Pat Riley really that desperate to try and get like a second star?
That's what he wants. He wants a star.
Is it Chris Paul, though? Like, the dude is always hurt.
That's what he wants. He wants that, but he's a name. He's a name that's always been a star, and he's been an all-star before, and he's Chris Paul, And you saw what he did in Houston. He had his moments. I think most of his moments were kind of downhill, though, in the playoffs. You saw it 2 years ago. If he was there for Game 7, I think they would have won that series against the Golden State Warriors, but he got hurt. If he was there, but he wasn't there. He's never is there. But my point is, this guy can be an all-star if he's healthy, and the problem is he's not healthy, and he really hasn't been. He's a great player, great floor general. I think he'd help the Miami Heat out, but like you said, I like Goran Dragic's game as well. And he can shoot a little bit. He's a lefty. He's a little bit of a sniper from 3. He can shift and make some nice passes to create for his teammates. I think he's a pretty solid player. I just don't really think it's worth trading for Chris Paul when you got somebody like Goran Dragic, who's probably around the same type of level of player that Chris Paul is at the moment.
And for $38.5 million a year,
that's what you got to look at, too.
Like, yeah, Chris Paul is owed so much money. That contract is such an albatross in the league right now that, like, they would have to send out at least 80% of that figure to bring him in. And the Miami Heat are already hard capped. So unless you want to play with 6 guys on your roster, I don't see this move happening at all for Miami. And also, what number does he wear if he goes down to Miami?
He's not wearing 3.
Heck no, he's not wearing 3. Nobody ever better wear 3 again for Miami.
No, that dude was the GOAT for Miami. I mean, is he not the best Miami Heat player of all time, Dwayne Wade?
Without a doubt.
I mean, you could argue LeBron, but it was Dwayne Wade's team before they got there.
It was still his team after he got there.
Yeah.
Dwayne, you look in the stands during those years that LeBron and Chris Bosh were there, and everybody's rocking the 3 still.
Everybody, and that's not going to change either. It's like wearing Michael Jordan's jersey for the Bulls.
Exactly. And then on to Markel Fultz, our boy. He's in the news once again. His videos have been all over social media lately. They're showing him shooting jumpers, working out. He's had interviews with all sorts of media outlets talking about how he's excited to get back to the game. He's going to be in full swing for training camp. McClure, how excited are you to see Markel Fultz on a basketball court?
Well, I guess I'm a little bit excited because here's a guy, I want to be clear about this. I'm rooting for this guy. I know I'm a Sixers fan, and he pretty much ruined the process when he was going to be that third piece, and he's just stunk up the joint. But I'm rooting for this kid to become something in this league because he had so much talent at Washington, and we talked about this at length last week about he could shoot the ball. He averaged over 20, and now he's in a different situation, and he needs to be aware of this. He ain't getting any more chances. This is his last shot for the Orlando Magic this year. This is going to be his last shot, I think. He was a number 1 overall draft pick. You saw what happened to Anthony Bennett. He's not even in the league anymore. He's in the G League. The Cavs drafted him first overall. It's at that level. And now he is a full participant in training camp, finally, and he's got to do something about it because he ain't getting any more chances after this. He's not.
Still no timetable on his return.
That's the other thing that's really bizarre. There's no timetable for his return, but he's a full participant in training camp. What are we doing here?
That's what I'm saying.
Are you wasting time?
Like, his body is good. His head is not in the game whatsoever. This guy can't get around whatever mental block that he has going on here. It's just the dude has the yips. He gets to the free throw line. He just starts crapping his pants. He doesn't know what to do out there on the court. The guy looks lost. It's sad, and that shot still looks broke. His shot looks like a WNBA jump shot now. Yeah. He's pushing it with 2 hands off of his chest. The dude, it doesn't look good still. If it goes in, it goes in. I mean, I've seen uglier shots, but still, this guy needs to get some kind of confidence, some kind of momentum going in his career, because all it was hype and people dogging him.
Yep.
He really needs to get past that mental block.
Yeah, and it's all a mental game for him, really. I mean, you mentioned it. He's got all the talent in the world. He's got all the accolades where he was a star in high school and in college. And then he got to the NBA and something happened. And that happens. He was a young kid coming into the NBA. But listen, man, you need to understand, you've been in this league now for a few years. You already got shifted off from the Sixers to the Magic. This is it. This is it for Markel Fultz. And I'm rooting for this kid. But he's got to step it up, man. He's got to step it up, and I want him to have a good year and be a productive player for the Orlando Magic, but he's got to be out on the court. I like to see he's a full participant in training camp, but we need you in game action, man.
Now on to this past number 1 overall pick, Zion Williamson, ranked number 42 in ESPN's top basketball player ranking for this current season. The dude has never played a regular season game, has never played 82 games in a season, and yet he's ranked above players like Kevin Love, Miles Turner, who was one of the best players on that Team USA basketball team, Aaron Gordon, an all-star, DeMar DeRozan, been a very solid player in the league, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Klay Thompson, a perennial all-star, ranked 49th, when Zion Williamson is ranked 42. What is going on with that? These people on ESPN are smoking crack. I swear, what is going on with this ranking? He's never even played against NBA competition. Why is he ranked 42 in like the upper echelon of the NBA right now? These guys are all-stars that I'm reading off to you right now. He's ranked 1 behind LaMarcus Aldridge. He's been a great player for 10 years. Nikola Vucevic, who made his first all-star season last year. Kyle Lowry, he's whatever. I think he's ranked too high. Draymond Green, who's been to like a billion finals straight in a row. Al Horford, who's one of the best big men in the league. How do you put Zion Williamson grouped with any of these players right now
without even stepping on the court? I mean, that's just a joke of the list. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. You got DeMar DeRozan behind Zion Williamson at 46. Really? You mentioned other guys too. Bogdanovich, Kevin Love, who's been just been a great player for the Cleveland Cavaliers when LeBron was there. Now, obviously, that team stinks now, and he's really not going anywhere. But are you kidding me? For a guy that hasn't stepped on the court, and oh, by the way, when he was on the court in the summer league, he got hurt. So can we see him play a full 82 games?
Can I see him play a full game?
No, can we see him play one full
Seriously. against guys that,
it's a joke of a list. It's
are
a joke
not
of a list.
18, 19 years old. I mean, you're going up and you're playing against men, and you're already ranked in the top 50 of the best players.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, man. Hey, you got all this hype around you. Let's go out and prove it. 42 to start. I mean, geez.
He better be something special. I tell you that right now, or these people at ESPN are going to be eating crow for the next year. I swear.
Yeah, that list stinks. I mean, there's just no other way to put it.
Our next segment here, I think you guys are going to enjoy it, especially our buddies listening out there, because this is something near and dear to our hearts. We're talking NBA teams that remind us of beers. Now,
this is going to be a good segment.
I know what you guys are thinking. What are you guys talking about beer for on this show? Well, it's college, and it's our show. So, I mean, we kind of have an hour to have fun and do whatever we want. And we were thinking about this segment, and we ran it by a few of the guys, and they absolutely loved the idea. So let's just jump right into it. I got, for PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon here, I have the Utah Jazz. Solid in the 80s and the 90s. PBR was a pretty big brand for a while, and then it went away. The Jazz, they had their finals runs. They had their solid teams with Stockton, Malone during that time period. Then they kind of went away for a while. Nobody really heard about the Utah Jazz. They didn't have much star power. They didn't really do anything in the playoffs. And now they're coming with this rebrand. You see out there, you got the PBR coffee. You got all these new PBR drinks. They got the really cool cans. I'm a big PBR guy, and I really like this Utah Jazz team. I think they're going to be good. The Utah Jazz going through a little bit of a rebrand themselves, bringing in Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert there, Donovan Mitchell. This is kind of an exciting team. They're growing the brand name, a team that a lot of people are very high on. And PBR, I'm going to have to say the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one there because, like you said, this is a Utah Jazz team that is on the up and up. And, PBR, not a bad beer. You mentioned the rebranding. I like that for PBR there, Dolby.
Thanks, man.
I do. That was good. That was good stuff. So I'm going to go with Hams. Hams is the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, Hams is the Phoenix Suns because it's a cheap beer and they will always stink even when they get your hopes up. Every single time you think this Suns team is going to be good, they're not. They're just not. You got Devin Booker, then you drafted DeAndre Ayton, and you're like, oh, and then they added Trevor Ariza, and you're like, ooh, wait a second here. This team might be on the up and up. And then they just go right downhill, kind of just like Hams does. I used to be a big fan of Hams in my earlier years in college. It's just the Phoenix Suns, man. They're never going to be what you think they are. They're going to get your hopes up, and just crash to the ground, man.
But at the same time, Hams is beer. And if the Phoenix Suns are on and nobody else is on, I'm watching.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And if Hams is in the fridge and there's nothing else in the fridge, I'm cracking open that ice cold can of Hams. All right, I got Stella Artois as the Lakers. Classy beer, great beer, nothing but the best. And that's what it seems like for the Lakers. This franchise is all about nothing but the best. You have to bring in the best superstars, the biggest names. It's boom or bust. Same with Stella. It's always going to be good. You always enjoy drinking it. It's a little pricey. It's really pricey to go to a Lakers game. It's pretty pricey if you want to drink Stella on the reg. This is just a very high class, very good team, very good beer here. They handle their brand the very same way, like upper echelon. If you see the Stella commercials, you get the special glass and they're cutting the foam off with the butter knife. It looks so good. And like the Lakers are constantly in the media with all the moves they're doing and all the chatter and all the talk around them. This is definitely the Stella Artois of the NBA.
And I'm going to go with Natty Light is the Detroit Pistons. And, Natty Light, it's an okay beer. It gets the job done. It's what a lot of college kids drink. And, the Pistons, they're always just hanging around, always there. They'll make the playoffs, be a 7 seed, 8 seed. They might surprise some people, get off to a great start to the year, and then they'll just slowly go down and stink up the joint. I mentioned how Dwayne Casey in the middle of that year, last year, was coaching like garbage. And, Natty Light, it's an okay beer. It gets the job done. And so do the Detroit Pistons in the regular season, because they always make the playoffs. They're always a 7-8 seed. They get it done, but then a better beer comes along and you'll rather have that, kind of like a better team comes along and they lose in the playoffs.
Solid pick there for Natty Light. Plus, you got to love Natty. All right, so for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I've got Hurricanes in the can that have been sitting in a steaming hot car for 2 weeks. Oh my God. I really liked Hurricanes whenever I was 18, and I really liked the Cavs whenever I was 18. LeBron was on that team, Kyrie, Kevin Love. It was really exciting. So were these beers that were going to get you trashed, man. And now, I thought they were great. Now I can't really stomach it. I cannot watch this Cavs team. They're so bad. I hate watching them play basketball, and I hate drinking Hurricanes. I can't even look at them anymore. They're so bad. They make my head hurt in the morning after, for both the Cavaliers and Hurricanes. Yeah. I'm over both of these products.
That's a pretty good one there. I'm gonna go with Miller Lite as the San Antonio Spurs. Always a solid choice for a beer. Miller Lite, yeah, you're going to take that. And the San Antonio Spurs have always been a solid basketball team. I mean, when's the last time they made the playoffs? I couldn't even tell you. You can never go wrong with this team. I mean, you really can't. They're always going to fight. They're always going to battle. You still got the same core guys. You got Greg Popovich, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge. It's the same team, guys. It's the same team. Miller Lite, man, you can't go wrong with it. Miller Lite is the San Antonio Spurs.
I agree with that 100%. That is spot on. Yeah. I will never turn down a Miller Lite, and I love watching the Spurs. And for me, I got the Boston Celtics as Michelob Ultra. Way too overrated. Oh my gosh. People talk about Mick Ultra like it's ambrosia. It's like, this beer is just so okay.
It's okay.
It's so okay. It has no taste. It's got no punch. This is the beer that my dad drinks for breakfast, man. This is just, it's so bad. It's way too pricey too. It's overrated, too pricey. These Boston Celtics are too pricey, low carbs, and guess what? That Boston Celtics team has no carbs either. There's nothing in that team that really gives you that punch anymore. Big Al is gone. Kyrie is gone. You got nothing in there that's going to provide, those nutrients. You know what I'm saying? This is an empty team, and this Michelob Ultra just tastes empty. It feels empty when it's sitting in your stomach, and it's way overhyped.
No, that's a pretty good one there too, because like you said, they're just an overrated team. They're always going to be a top 3 or 4 seed, but you've seen the last few years they haven't been able to get it done in the playoffs. So. And I like that one.
Mick Ultra does not get it done for me.
Yeah. So my final one is going to be White Claws or the New Orleans Pelicans. White Claws are this new wave that a lot of people are going to now to cut down on the calories that beer has. And, you look at this New Orleans Pelicans team, they're up and coming. They got a new squad. They made a lot of changes. We mentioned Zion's there, Lonzo's there, Brandon Ingram's there now. It's a new kind of squad. Everybody's kind of hyping them up a little bit. Not that much, but you got a good young squad here in the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, I like White Claws as well. I mean, it's the new wave, and I just don't know if I buy it though. How people I'll have 1 or 2 and I'll be good. People buy 2 12-packs. I'm like, nah, you know what I mean? I'm not buying this New Orleans Pelicans teams just yet. I mean, we see 42 for Zion and the top 50 NBA players. I ain't buying it.
I agree. And also, I kind of feel like this Pelicans team has the potential almost to be like a Golden State where I really liked watching Golden State whenever they were young until they started winning like championship after championship after championship. And if everything comes together for these Pelicans teams, it's going to be the same as that. And that's the same for White Claw. Whenever I first tasted White Claw, I was like, ooh, that's pretty good. That's kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
On a hot summer day, that's
Yeah.
pretty nice. But then after drinking them for about 2 weeks, it's like, dude, somebody hand me a beer, please, because I'm just sick of it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
kind of
same
what this
that when-
Pelicans team looks like, man. And that's exactly right. I mean, it's just, there's new wave. They're the new kind of team they built, from the draft. They traded a few guys and got some guys in return that, it's new scenery for some guys that were high draft picks that didn't do well in their first spot. You got Zion, like I mentioned earlier. You added a JJ Redick as a veteran. It's an interesting team, and White Claw's an interesting type of, seltzer. So, that's my White Claw is the New Orleans Pelicans.
I like it. Really exciting segment that I really like here. I know you do too, Tom.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Is the blast from the draft. We have a lot of fun with this whenever we're doing show prep. We like going through it. Plus, it's just interesting to see where these players were taken and then what they've become in the NBA. So, I mean, we'll start again here. This is the NBA draft for 2015, featuring Karl Anthony Towns as your first pick, and you had D'Lo for your second pick, and then you got Jahlil Okafor for your third pick. Let's go with your bust first. McClure, who do you have for us?
And I'm going with Jahlil Okafor. You just mentioned Dolby. This is a guy who, at the University of Duke, was going to be this all-star. I mean, he was a great player at Duke, and you drafted him. The Sixers drafted him, and they already had two big guys. It was you had Nerlens Noel on that team, and you had Joel Embiid. And then they drafted another big guy at 3, and it was Jahlil Okafor. And he showed up his first year for the 76ers. He averaged close to 17 points a game his first year for the Philadelphia 76ers. But what were people most critical about this guy? His lack of hustle, one, and his lack of defense. You thought this guy was going to be a shot-blocking machine. We all know, and he still has a pretty decent offensive game, but for the third overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft, he's got to be way better than what he is right now. He's on the New Orleans Pelicans right now. He's going to be a solid player for them, but this guy, you just expected way more, and he didn't give it to you. And it was a real question mark why the 76ers even drafted him, because they had two big guys. Now, they shifted Nerlens somewhere else, I think to Oklahoma City or Dallas or one of those two. But Jahlil Okafor in this draft, you thought he was going to be something special, and he just really didn't turn out to be that big-time player in the NBA.
That, and he was like the guy for that Duke team whenever they went on and won the title in 2015. He was like the focal point there. He did it all. He looked great, and he really did a great job putting that Duke team on his back. And then he gets to the NBA, and he enters like the ultimate big man potential logjam there with what you brought up there with Noel, Embiid, and now Okafor. And they didn't know how to handle the situation. And during those days, I think they were really just they were just slinging mud against the wall and trying to see what stuck.
They were trying to get the best player available, and they thought it was Jahlil Okafor, but guess who was sitting at 4? Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh
he was sitting
gosh.
at 4.
He
Could you
would've been
imagine?
nice.
Could you imagine right how if he was on the Philadelphia 76ers with Embiid and him, you probably wouldn't even need Al Horford.
You wouldn't have gotten Ben Simmons.
And you probably wouldn't have gotten Ben Simmons. You're right.
But, that's neither here nor there. And another thing with Jahlil Okafor is like, he kind of was born in the wrong era. If he was born 10 years before he would have been a dominant player in the league.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of roster spots for a guy who's going to be a great down low in the post big man banger who's going to grab you.
Offensively.
Yeah, exactly. Offensively, going to grab you boards, and he's going to go up and he's going to put the ball in the basket. Really, that go-to outlet guy who's going to be the screen and roll man. That was so much of the NBA before this current time. And this, of course, the pick and roll is still evolving with the game because it's just a great play in the NBA. But like this was a guy that he entered the NBA and then it kind of shifted away from him. There was so much of like less of a positional it's more of a positionless league now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like he's more of a traditional 5. He's going to go in there. He's going to do all the things that I just said. And now he can't guard on the perimeter. He can't shoot from the perimeter. These are all things that teams are looking for.
And he struggles on the glass as well.
Yeah, that facet of his game was totally erased as soon as he hit the NBA. Just never really grew up.
No, he didn't.
My bust for the draft is Mario Hezonja, the 5th pick by the Orlando Magic. And, I mean, I look at this guy's career, and he's played in 277 total games, but, like, Super Mario really never got anything done. He hasn't been that great of a shooter, which he was drafted to be that guy. He was, like, the sharpshooter of that class, other than Devin Booker, who could put the ball in the bucket. We'll get to him later. But other than that, he's just been very lackluster in his performance. He's just been a really average guy. He came over from overseas, and they kind of took a gamble on him. Maybe, you know how everybody loves to try and grab that next guy that's going to be that international superstar, and he clearly wasn't it. Now he plays for the Knicks, and he had one of the top 25 highlights of last year. He had a pretty nice dunk, but other than that, like, he really doesn't do much for New York. He didn't do much for Orlando. His whole career has been really
mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre, below average kind of.
I'd say below average, if that. Maybe bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
As a shooter, he was supposed to be
5th pick of the draft. We were looking at this draft. It's loaded, and you go with this guy, and I understand you're looking for that next international star. I get it. You see Luka Doncic and what he's doing. Everybody's looking for that, and they were looking in 2015 for that guy, and he stinks. He's not any good. He had that one highlight play. He dunked over Giannis, but other than that, he has done nothing. He averaged 8.8 points a game last year, and that was his second best year. He had the year before he went to Orlando, or went to the New York Knicks. His last year in Orlando, he averaged 9.6 points a game. As a 5th overall pick, you got to have a little bit more offensive game than that. And he just never adapted to the game. And you see some guys like a Luka Doncic that were dominant at the international level, and it translated to the NBA, the highest level in professional basketball. And it didn't work out for this guy. And he's still on the Knicks. He's still a pretty young guy. He's only 23 years of age. We'll have to see. But right now, he's a bust in the 2015 NBA draft.
Yeah, 3 stats that really stick out to me for him are his 3-point percentage, which last year was 27.6. Are you kidding me? I'm pretty sure Joel Embiid shoots better than that. 32.1 over for his whole career. Player efficiency rating of 10.5, which is not what you're looking for in an NBA player. And last year, a win share total. This is like basically all your stats compiled, what you did for your team, and like what percentage of wins that you actually gave them, or how many wins that your team got that you would account for. So like LeBron James would have a really high win percentage because he means so much to that team. He plays so great. His win percentage last year, -0.1. Wow. So actually the Knicks would have been better without him than with him on the court. This dude is a bust.
Oh, geez. That's bad.
Terrible.
All right, so we're going to move to the gem of the draft now, and I was torn between 2 guys. Dolby picked the other guy that I was thinking about, but I got to say Montrezl Harrell with the 32nd pick in this draft. That's an absolute steal because you see what he is doing for the L.A. Clippers. The Houston Rockets drafted him, and he played 2 years there, and then he moved to the L.A. Clippers, and he's one of their big-time players coming off the bench. It was him and Lou this year, or last year, rather, and they played a big-time role on that team. He's a good player. He's a guy that just kind of bangs in the paint. He'll be physical. He'll play solid defense. He's working on his offensive game. This guy had a really high shooting percentage because he was either getting putbacks, layups. He was making layups. This guy was unbelievable last year for the LA Clippers, and he's still a pretty young guy, and he's still going to work on his game, and he just gets after it. He isn't afraid of anybody. He kind of reminds me of Draymond Green a little bit, but he's got a little bit better touch, I'd say, around the rim. I think he's got a little bit better offensive game. And that's just my personal opinion. I think Draymond Green's a little bit better on the defensive end and passing the ball. You know, Draymond Green could honestly bring up the ball for the Golden State Warriors if he needed to, and just dish to Steph.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he really could do that. Montrezl Harrell can't do that. But this guy was an absolute steal in the draft because he brings a physicality that not a lot of guys in the NBA do.
He reminds me of like a young Kenneth Faried. Is what I always draw comparisons to. He's like the manimal, dude. This dude is out there, all-time hustle team, all-time effort team. I love his game. I like watching him play. He's great coming off the bench for that super deep Clippers team. Really excited to watch him play next year for that loaded squad. Hopefully he gets around the same amount of minutes, if not increases his minutes. For me, if I'm going Josh Richardson, the 40th overall pick out of
40th.
Tennessee. This dude has been great for the 40th pick. Guy's got game,
He's
man.
got game, man.
He's got real nice game. I mean,
second rounder,
he should have been a top 20 pick in
top
this draft.
10 maybe.
This guy's great, and I love that he's on the 76ers. I think he just adds a really nice element, can shoot the three ball. He does everything really well. I mean, his career field goal percentage from three is around 37%. He's great at the line, which is something that the 76ers always need. He can dish it out. He can get boards. He gets points. He creates his own offense. He's just a really great – well, he's a really good player, especially for 40th pick overall, and he's big. He's got good size at 6'6". I think he's the shortest dude on that team right now for the 76ers. Like this, I like him. I like him a lot. Jay Rich, he's gonna be a baller for that team, especially now that he's not gonna be like the focal point of defensive schemes sometimes whenever he's on the court. Because before, like he would be on the court for the Heat, and defenses would be able to scheme against him and really play him as the number one guy because he was that scoring outlet that they had to cover. They had to guard him, had to put their best player on him. And now in the 76ers, he's just going to blend really well.
No, I think so too. And, you know, I think Dwayne Wade being there at the end of his career probably helped Josh Richardson a lot. He grew every single year he got to the NBA. And he really had a great year last year, and he's a pretty good defender, as you mentioned, Dolby, and he's not going to be the main vocal point for the Philadelphia 76ers. You got Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, who looks like he's going to be a great player this year. I think he's going to have a big-time year, Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid, this guy can create a little bit, and he can shoot the ball. He can be a catch-and-shoot type guy. I'm a big fan of Josh Richardson. This is also an absolute steal. I just went Harrell because, you know, it's just he brought a big-time piece. He was a big-time piece for that Clippers team and was a big reason why they had such a great year last year, kind of like the Heat did. But Josh Richardson in a 76ers uniform, that's a big time. That is huge for the Philadelphia 76ers. At
40, an absolute gem in the 2015 NBA draft. And for the smart pick, these are guys that fell outside of the top half of the first round, but the team saw what they saw in them. They knew what kind of players these guys were going to become. And just because the people picking at the top end of the draft didn't feel as though these guys were going to be worth that much, the better GMs, the smarter GMs from the better teams, since they're picking in the back half of the first round, they knew what they were looking at in these guys. They know how to develop talent. They know what they're looking for as far as schemes go. And for me, I'd have to say my smart pick by the Boston Celtics would be Scary Terry Rozier. The man got paid this offseason by the Charlotte Hornets. He moved on from his team in the Boston Celtics this offseason. And he looked fantastic at times. He could take over games at times. This guy was somebody who I honestly, as a Sixers fan, I was scared of seeing in the playoffs because it always seemed like he would come out and he would dominate against the Sixers. He would hit the clutch shots. He would make all the good dimes. He would really just boost that team coming off the bench. And honestly, he could start for the Boston Celtics if they didn't have a Kyrie Irving or an Isaiah Thomas kind of pushing him for that starting role. This guy was great coming off the bench. He was a very efficient player. I knew he was going to go and sign with somebody else this offseason just because he played so well his whole career. Why would you want to be pushed back to that number 2 role your whole career? Why would you want to be that guy? They weren't winning chips in Boston. He was playing his absolute heart out. I think he's going to play pretty well for Charlotte, although that team's going to stink. There's not much around him, but he kind of brings that veteran presence to that Charlotte Hornets team. And at the number 16 pick in the draft, that was a very smart pick for a guy who played a lot of minutes for you in Boston.
Yeah, and he was, when Kyrie was there last year, he kind of took a back seat to him there, and I don't really think he liked that. And he went on First Take when the season ended and talked about his frustrations with the Boston Celtics because the year before he was their guy and pretty much dominated the playoffs and pretty much got them to where they were in the playoffs because of his play, because of the big-time shots he made in the playoffs. This guy is going to have a great season with the Charlotte Hornets. You mentioned they don't have a lot of guys around him, but this is a guy who can shoot the ball. He can score it at will. I mean, this is a guy now that can put the ball in the hoop. I think he's going to, be good on that Charlotte Hornets team. It's just the team's not going to be that good. He wanted to get out of Boston. He did get out of Boston. We got a pretty good deal with the Charlotte Hornets. That is a very, very smart pick for the Boston Celtics. My smart pick is going to be Devin Booker. He was picked number 13 in the 2015 NBA draft by the Phoenix Suns. He's still playing for Phoenix, and this is a guy who's kind of got that Mamba mentality a little bit where he can just put the ball in the hoop. I mean, this guy scored 70 points in one game. This guy can really just score the basketball, kind of like what Kobe could do. But, Kobe's just on a new level on his winning ways and how he went out and just, he dominated for those Lakers teams when they went to the finals. Devin Booker is still trying to get to the playoffs for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to make that final push for the Suns. Kind of disappointing there because he's been an absolute baller for that team, and he's the only guy really that has that much game on that squad, so you can see why he's putting up 70. But, I mean, just for his shooting ability, something that has just become the apex of what the NBA is all about. If you can hit the 3 ball and if you can create your own offense and if you can pass the ball well, you're going to be a star player in this league, and that's exactly what Devin Booker is.
Yeah, and another guy that I forgot to mention on there that I thought was a pretty smart pick coming in the 30th overall is Kevon Looney for the Golden State Warriors. Here's a guy that it was a role player for those Golden State Warriors championship teams. Now, does he do a lot on the offensive side? Does he score you some points? He will, but he's not going to get you, 15, but he's going to be somebody that plays solid defense, can score a little bit. He's going to rebound for you. And he was on those Warriors teams and had a role on those teams. And when guys went down last year during their playoff run, he stepped up and played pretty well against the Houston Rockets and the Toronto Raptors. So I think he was a pretty smart pick there at 30 for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, very smart. He got a lot of playoff minutes in his career there, and he was a guy that was really highly touted coming out of high school, went to UCLA, kind of underperformed in college. That's why he slipped in the draft, but he has a great frame. He's got a great mentality. He's another one of those guys who is going to go out there. He's going to hustle. He's going to fight for the ball. He brought just a really good energy to that Golden State team, a team that never really focused their game around their fives. And he slid right in there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a really good pick for the Golden State Warriors. Somebody that they kind of needed because you saw the injuries go down to their big man, and he stepped up and played great in this postseason. I expect him to take another step next year as well.
All right, for my best pick of the draft, I'm going to go with Miles Turner. He was somewhat of a steal. He led the Team USA this summer to their poor performance, but he played pretty well. He's just been an absolute troublemaker in the league as far as opposing defenses are concerned, and he plays really good defense. He goes up, he gets blocks, he shoots the three well. Last year he shot 39% from beyond the arc, 75% free throw shooter. He has a player efficiency rating of 18. He really does a great job leading that front court for the Indiana Pacers. He's been there his whole career, drafted 11th overall. I mean, he was a beast in Texas. He's great. He's typically very healthy. He plays a lot of minutes. He doesn't do anything particularly, exceptional, but he does everything very well.
Very good.
And is he going to make the Hall of Fame? No. But is he a guy that taken 11th overall where you saw, other players like Trey Lyles taken or excuse me, like a, like a Kelly Oubre? Come on. He's in the same range. Trey Lyles, Justice Winslow. He's a better player than any of those guys. Jerian Grant. This is a dude that is a way better competitor. He has really solid game. He's still developing because he was taken really young.
Mm-hmm.
He's still 23 years old. The guy is only going to get better. He's not even in his prime. He's 6'11", 250. He's hard to move. He's got that sick hairdo. This guy, he's the best pick in this draft.
Yeah, I like that for your best pick of the draft there. And he's a guy that plays very hard, and he's got a pretty good offensive game where he's trying to extend his range a little bit, adding the mid-range jumper to his shot, even the three-pointer. He started taking a little bit of those last year. I like Miles Turner as being somebody who was one of the better players in that draft. Now, my best player in the draft has got to be Kristaps Porzingis. I know it hasn't been very healthy, but when he is healthy, he is dominant on the basketball court. This guy can shoot from anywhere on the court. He's got great blocking ability. He can swat anything on defense. And hey, this is a guy that you really didn't expect to be this big-time player, and look what he turned out to be. Now, health is an issue that I mentioned earlier, but when this guy is 100% healthy, he is lethal, and I think he's going to be in a great situation in Dallas with Luka Doncic. And he's going to be a big-time player for them, and he's going to be the future of the league, those two guys. He was great with the New York Knicks. Obviously, injuries just hurt him, but this is a guy that can change the dynamic of the game with a few offensive things, and he is a big-time player. He's my best player in the 2015 NBA draft.
He's a unicorn, man. Him and Luka are going to have some magical games, some magical moments, and I think for years to come, that team is going to be like the international face of the NBA. Kristaps and Luka are going to be great. They're going to ball out. They both have great size, great touch, can handle the ball. I just wish that Kristaps would get a little bit bigger, not as in size-wise, but as in the way that he plays his game. He plays small. He almost plays like he wants to play like a guard. Mm-hmm. The dude's just tremendously talented, but I'd like him to have a little bit more of that killer mentality in him.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we're on to the WTF pick of the draft. This is just that pick that makes you say, what were you thinking? What was this franchise thinking about taking this guy here? I mean, nobody really saw it coming. Everybody's like, who? What? And for me, that was R.J. Hunter. He was taken 28th by the Celtics. They could have gotten some better talent in this draft if they would have done their scouting better. Instead, they were blown away by his two-game performance in the NCAA tournament that year. He played for Georgia State. Him and his dad was his head coach. They totally upset Baylor in that first round because RJ hit that monster clutch shot at the end of the game, and it was and everybody went wild. So did I. I was watching it, and it sucked because I had Baylor going pretty deep in the tournament, and then I would never trust them again in the whole history of the Baylor in the whole Baylor program. I will never have them past the Sweet 16 because of that tournament right there. But I mean, he was not a dynamic player whatsoever. Didn't bring anything for your team defensively. All he did was shoot the three, and once he hit the NBA, he shot 29.5% from the three in his career. He stunk it up. He played in one game last year for the Houston Rockets. He is out of the league now. Your 28th overall pick. He stinks, man. WTF. It was a great story, but why would you take him there in the first round? Come on.
Yeah, my WTF pick is Cameron Payne. I mean, this is a guy who was drafted in the middle of the first round by drafted in the middle of the first round, and he's been in the league for a while now, and he still plays in the NBA Summer League. I mean, why is this guy playing in the NBA Summer League? He played in 40 games last year. He averaged 6.3 points a game, 3 assists. I mean, this is a guy that when you look at this draft, you're like, why is this guy taken right there when there were guys ahead of him or below him that you're like, these guys are way better than Cameron Payne. I mean, he had a cool handshake, I guess, with Russell Westbrook when he was in Oklahoma City, but that's about it. He still plays in the Summer League. That's all that needs to be said here. The guy isn't that good. I mean, he's always going to be what he is. He's still young. He could still maybe become some okay player in the NBA, but to be drafted in the middle of the first round, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Do you really believe that he's going to be a good player in the NBA?
No.
Okay.
Well, I was being nice.
Yeah, you don't got to be nice to this guy. He sucks. He's a bum.
It's just like, why are you still in the Summer League?
Because he's a bum. That's why.
That's the only way. That's the only way. Like, that's the only way. I mean, it just makes no sense to me that this guy, like, is still playing in the Summer League and was drafted that high when you got some good players in this draft, like Kevon Looney, Harrell, Richardson, that were pretty much all taken in the late first round and second round.
Terry Rozier would have fit in really nicely on that OKC team.
Yep.
OKC team. A guy like Tyus Jones, who we're going to get to here in a coming part of this segment here. But right now, we're going to go to our worst team draft in this draft here. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Lakers, and not because they drafted bad players, because they drafted one bad player, Anthony Brown, the 34th overall pick. He sucked. He's terrible. He played 5 years in college and then played a total of 41 games in the NBA. So he was terrible coming out of Stanford. Waste of a pick there. But you take D'Angelo Russell at number 2, the star point guard coming out of Ohio State, blew everybody away, could shoot, he had the best court vision. Everybody was talking about his court vision and how he was going to be like the keystone of that Lakers rebuild. And he came out and he had some beef with Swaggy P. He was filming guys in the locker room, trying to build his brand on social media. The Lakers said, get him out. Yeah, you got to get him out. And they traded him to the Nets for nothing, basically.
And look what
And then he's an all-star.
Yeah.
And now he's a max contract player because he's awesome.
He is
so
good.
To get rid of him that early was terrible. Same with Larry Nance. They took him 27th overall out of Wyoming. He is basically the same player that he was now, but he gets minutes. He gets minutes on a bad team. He was a guy that he was going to be an athlete, kind of a project piece. He still is kind of a project. His father played in the league. They thought, maybe the family ties there. Larry Nance was an okay pick, but the trading D'Lo was terrible. You got nothing for these assets, basically. And I think, what they get? They got Timofey Mozgov, I think, for Larry Nance. They traded Jordan Clarkson.
They went to the Cavs.
Yeah, to the Cavs. And now, Larry Nance can barely carve out a role on that team. And D'Lo, they traded away before he got into his prime. Terrible draft for the Lakers.
My worst team draft is got to be the Philadelphia 76ers. Why draft another big man when you already got Nerlens Noel and Embiid? I mentioned that earlier. Oh, and by the way, you could have got Kristaps Porzingis. Just not a good draft for the Philadelphia 76ers. Jahlil Okafor really made that franchise take a little bit of a step down because you thought they were going to be on the up and up after this year. And when they drafted him and he was okay, his rookie year, they just struggled to kind of find their footing and be that a competitive team in the NBA. I mean, they had some bad teams, the Philadelphia 76ers did, before the process started. And when the process started, they thought this guy was going to be a piece for them, and it turned out to really be nothing. He wasn't that good for them. They just got some other guys in the second round that weren't any good, like Willie Herman Gomez, Rashawn Holmes. He was okay. I mean, just some guy can't even pronounce his name. I mean, they got four second-round draft picks. I mean, there's only a few second-round draft picks that can do anything in the NBA. Bad draft for the Philadelphia 76ers.
For my best draft for my best team draft, I'm going to have to go with the Timberwolves. They took the best player in the draft, Karl Anthony Towns. They didn't get bought into the hype with the Jahlil Okafor or anything like that. They went with a safe pick. He's been the best player in this draft. He's going to continue to be. He's on pace for a Hall of Fame career. Hopefully they can start making the playoffs with him, because it's going to be a shame if I don't get to see him in the postseason. And also Tyus Jones. They got him in a trade with Cleveland. He's been a very solid player. He's played a little bit of their starting point guard. He's just been very solid for them. I really like this draft. They just took really two solid players. They played a total of 247 games in the NBA, or Tyus Jones has. So, I mean, you can't ask that much out of a 24th overall pick. I like this draft a lot.
Yeah, my best team draft is the Miami Heat. You got Justice Winslow at 10, and then you got Josh Richardson at 40. Just really two solid players in the NBA that really have stepped up their game each and every year. Now Josh Richardson is in Philly, but you still got Justice Winslow there for the Heat. It was a pretty good draft for the Miami Heat, trying to, always a really tough out for teams, and they play their guts out. These two guys are a big reason why.
And, well, that's the end of Blast from the Draft. Getting close to the end of our show, but real quick, we want to bring in a birthday segment here because as you guys know, it was McClure's birthday yesterday. It's my birthday tomorrow, so we got the show in between. A nice little birthday present for the both of us here. So we're going to go with a segment. Which current NBA player's birthday party would you like to go to, McClure?
I said Jimmy Butler. I mean, he just seems like he's a really fun guy to be around. You saw when the Philadelphia 76ers brought him in, he was awesome. Jimmy Butler would be a pretty cool birthday party to be with, man. It'd be cool.
I think D'Angelo Russell. The dude's about our age. I feel like he likes to get down. The dude's gonna have, he's got so much money. I feel like he just got traded out west. He's gonna have a really nice venue. Probably gonna see the ocean. Maybe have a beach party or something like that. Beautiful women, great drinks, and I gotta ask him about that whack hair, man. He looks like a squid on the court. I love his game, but I'd have to ask him about that whack hair. All right, and that's going to be it for us here at Half Court. Tune in next week, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you to everybody who listened or watched us on Facebook Live. If you want to follow us at P Half Court or at Dolby_Sports or at the Cobra 66.
Yeah, and also subscribe on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.